And welcome back once again to the Endurance Hour podcast, episode 252, alongside Coach Wendy Mader. I'm Dave Erickson. Thanks for joining us this week. We're going to cover one topic, one question, and this comes from Todd via email. He writes here, is it a good idea to train for multiple events at the same time? For example, a half marathon and a sprint triathlon. Would they both complement each other in physical fitness, Wendy? What a great question.
Yeah, I really like this question. I have a lot to say about it. So first of all, do they complement each other? I want to talk about that part first. You know, in our most recent programs that we've developed, our Couch 2 series, Couch to Sprint Olympic 70.3 and 140.6, we actually have athletes training for a half Ironman in preparation for their 70.3. We have athletes training for a 5K, 10K in preparation for their sprint or Olympic distance event. So I think that's really good to include multiple events leading up to your main event. When it comes to a half marathon and a sprint distance triathlon, if you have a running background, maybe a half marathon is, no big deal to you because you have experience with that. Or if you have a sprint distance triathlon background, maybe the half marathon is very long to you and it is a big deal because you don't have the running background. Mm-hmm. So when you're training for those two specific events together, it's important that you build up enough running and training volume to successfully complete your half marathon and build up the confidence level that you can complete a sprint distance triathlon. I think for me and my experience as a coach and an athlete, I think the cross training that the sprint distance triathlon plan will definitely complement your half marathon program. So yes, they will complement each other, but it's also important to know your why and your reason. What's the purpose of your half? What's the purpose of the sprint? Are you going to finish or are you going to compete to finish under a certain time? And how far apart are the events? Is the half marathon before the sprint? Is the sprint before the half? Are they a week apart? Are they 3 months apart? So take all that into consideration as you're developing your own smart training plan, or if you're searching for a training plan, or if you have a coach, it's important to keep all that information in the back of your mind and answer all those questions.
So for example, you said, you could have a half marathon plan within a half Ironman plan. Now, how hard would you be going in that half marathon training race before that half Ironman race?
I would do the half marathon as more of like a training day. Mm-hmm. Depending, if you're a first timer, building up to that half marathon is really important for mental confidence leading up to your half Ironman. Mm-hmm. So it really, if you're an experienced athlete like myself, and you were training for a half marathon before a half Ironman, which I currently am. Mm-hmm. I'm doing a half marathon in March and I'm doing a 70.3 in June. Well, I'm going to go hard in both. I'm going to peak in March and then I'm also going to peak in June. Because of my experience and background, I can do that. But again, looking at a half marathon, if this is your first sprint, a half marathon is a longer event mm-hmm. than a sprint distance triathlon is. So you want to make sure you're training that volume for the half marathon, that you don't necessarily need to train for that volume for a sprint.
I think the recovery, this might be a harder challenge to throw in a half marathon if you're doing a sprint, because like you said, it's going to be a longer race, longer recovery. And I'm not sure, this is my opinion here, of you'd want to do a training race that has more intensity and longer duration than the race you're actually training for later.
He didn't say which one he's doing first or second.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted to talk about it in the beginning. The question will be answered in a different way if we knew which race was first and which race was second, and how far apart are the races. I think it's great to be, expanding and training for running, training for triathlon, training for multiple events, but just depends on your experience. You just want to be careful. Like you said, training for a half before a sprint could be more taxing than training for a sprint in preparation for your half.
And there lies in the value of a coach in the plans that you've created and we've put together, is that you systematically put in races that prepare you for the event in a certain sequence. Whether, like you said, put a 5K in, a couple of weeks before your actual race, or we have Olympics in, let's say, a 16-week half Ironman plan. There's an Olympic race within there, and there's also a half marathon in there somewhere. And they're all meant to build on each other before the actual A race.
Right. So let me comment on building that. I don't see a half marathon building. You don't need to do a half marathon before you do a sprint.
No.
But you could do a sprint before. I'm keep going back to doing the sprint before the half marathon. But you could also do, let's say you wanted to do a half marathon in the summertime. You do like a running phase of training, because that'll get you mentally and physically confident in your running skills. And then you take a break from running, you start cross training with biking and swimming in preparation for your sprint race, which is maybe 2 or 3 or more months after the half Ironman.
That reminds me, I know that we have the Cycling Made Easy plans, which are 4-week workouts that are very specific. Was it 5 workouts a week for 4 weeks?
Those actually, now that you brought that up, I can see those cycling 4-week block plans would complement your running half marathon plan. So, let's say you found a half marathon plan, which we do offer also, but let's say you already have your half marathon plan going on and you wanted to add some cross training like cycling and swimming within your half marathon plan, which I always recommend cross training, not just following one sport specific plan. That would actually go really well. Maybe our swimming 101 workouts, our cycling made easy workouts within the plan. So then when you finish your assuming the half marathon is first, you finish your half marathon, but you've already been dabbling in some technique and endurance with the swimming and cycling. So then when you finish your half marathon, you're already kind of been training for the sprint.
It sounds like it comes down to the timing of when you want to incorporate these blocks of cross training or races.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But totally, I'm glad he asked the question, because I have other, now I've come up with other questions I'm asking him back. And maybe other people who are listening to this want to chime in and let us know their experiences with training for a half and a sprint.
I can totally see this complementing your physical fitness, the cross training, that working different body parts, giving your body a chance to rest and recover in other areas. So if you do hit a 3 or 4 week cycling block, let's say you're doing a whole, half a year, 6-month plan. So before your A race, maybe 2 months into it, you do a 4-week cycling specific training intensity workout. And now you've given your legs a chance to rest, or your shoulders and your swimming fitness a little chance to rest and recover, maybe more your running, and vice versa, right? If maybe you get into a half marathon training plan early on in a 6-month plan, well, now you've gotten the confidence and built up that endurance, and then you start incorporating everything else. So the whole overall physical fitness is going to be elevated because you've built different building blocks. That makes sense, Coach?
No. And as you were talking, I was thinking what I would avoid for anyone out there who has never really trained before, who's really new to the sport. I would avoid having a half marathon plan, a sprint distance triathlon plan, and putting them together at the same time. I would avoid that. What you're trying to do is trying to maybe find one plan. Okay, so let's make the assumption that these races are close together, like maybe within 1 or 2 weeks apart. I would want to find that plan that was building up my running enough for the half, but was also including the cycling and the swimming and the strength training as cross training, so I could do the half and the sprint pretty close together. That's what I would strive for.
Have we covered the dangers of doing something that doesn't fit, like the whole half marathon before a sprint? I mean, your sprint's going to suffer big time.
It could, yeah, it could, just depending on, we don't know all the background of Todd who's asking. Um, but if his goal is just to finish, nothing's going to suffer because he's going to be able to finish just fine.
Yeah, he'll be able to finish.
I think from what I know as a first-time triathlete 26 years ago, running was not my thing. Swimming was. So running was always that mental game for me is could I get through the run? And if I was following a half marathon program, I wouldn't have that issue. I'd be like, yeah, I'm a runner. I've done a half marathon, but I didn't do a half marathon before my first sprint. So, whatever you're training for, just have a good why and a good goal. Is your goal to finish each? Well, then you're going to have a great experience because you're going to finish.
Yeah.
But is your goal to be more competitive one over the other? Then that'll change the way you go about your training volume and training intensity. It's the art. The art of coaching is trying to help an athlete balance those variables and get them ready. But it all comes down to the why and the goal. That comes first. And then the plan follows.
Well, Todd, you're welcome to follow up with an email with us, endurancehour@gmail.com, to clarify or to reword the question if you want. If you have a question for us, same thing, or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/endurancehour. We'd love to feature you on the program. I will supply links in the show notes on endurancehour.com/episode 252 if you're interested. And if you are looking for a training plan, we do have a free code for 33% off of anything on Training Peaks that we offer. And it's not just a one-time code, it's a code for all plans if you like, and you can use it over and over again. Go to endurancehour.com/33%, 33%. So with that, Wendy, thanks everyone for listening for episode 252. Have a great week of training, racing, or recovery. We'd love to see you back here next time. Adios.
Adios.
Today's question is brought to you by How to Swim Faster in 30 Days, a freestyle guide to dropping time in the pool or open water. This multimedia training plan includes 42 instructional swim lesson videos and demonstrations above and below the water, plus a detailed 30-day calendar designed to help you swim faster and more efficiently than ever before.